If you are interested in becoming a professional entertainer, stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Kiki.
And I'm Kemi.
And you're listening to
Your Advisors Will See You Now, a podcast that will help you to figure out all of your options for life after high school. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Your Advisors Will See You Now. If you are new here, this is a career chat episode where we talk with people in different careers so you can figure out how to get in there and what it is that they exactly do. So today we are interviewing with Jordan Frazier. She is a professional entertainer. She is an international singer, dancer, actor, and voiceover artist who is currently based in London, England. She served as all of them. If you know who Hamilton is, you better come out from under a rock if you don't know. She served as three of the covers for the Schuyler Sisters, in addition to being part of the dance ensemble for the West End production of Hamilton. She grew up in the small town of Greensboro, North Carolina, and graduated magna cum laude from two of the top artist schools in the country. The University of North Carolina School of Arts, UNCSA, and Elon University, fellow alum, one of the top 5 musical theater schools in the country. She graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in musical theater. Everyone, please welcome our fellow alum, Jordan Frazier.
Welcome,
Hello.
Jordan.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you for being on with us today, Jordan. And thank you for educating me on, I didn't know that Elon was the top 5 musical theater school in the country. I knew we had some.
You knew that.
I knew we had some slaying like musicals. I knew we had some great theater because every time a ticket came out, I was like, let me get it. We got it for free because we're students and they're really good. But I didn't know we were like top 5. And I think also
it fluctuates each year because they re-rate it, but it's always been in the top 10 or top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, depending on the list and stuff. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also good to share too, because I think when people think of like a musical theater, they automatically think it's probably in New York automatically, or possibly maybe California. Even that's more.
Not small Elon.
Yeah, but go.
Yeah, there's great programs all over the country, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Nice to meet you guys, though. Hello, I'm Jordan. Hi.
Thank you for being on with us, Jordan. We just touched base a little bit about your educational background. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that? So you were in 2 programs. You were in Elon, then you were in like another program as well. Mm-hmm. Can you just tell us a little bit about that experience and what led you to go through like the programs that you selected?
Okay, so I always have been a crazy, weird kid, super creative, all sorts of things like that. And so I always knew I was like, I'm supposed to be a star, as a kid, like making up music videos and writing songs and, just hyper creative kid in every way. And it took my parents a while to catch on to it, really. So I did some. Really, my first introduction into musical theater, like I was always like writing songs myself and making up dances with my friends, music videos and, acting and, trying to act out, stuff that I saw on TV. But I didn't know about musical theater. I was such a late discoverer of it. When I went to high school, I went to Weaver Academy, and it's an arts program, like a magnet school, I think it would be categorized as, in Greensboro. And they have multiple programs, and I was a part of the music production program. So learning to record vocals and, master vocals and produce and things like that. And I just so happened to be walking into the school one day and before classes started, and somebody from the theater team came out and they're like, hey, you want to audition for our musical? And I was like, I don't think I'd even really seen a musical before this, if I'm being honest. I was not like one of those, MT nerds. And I went in for it. It was for the show That Boy. And they just had me sing for this role, and I got it. And that was like my first musical. And that kind of made the light bulb click of like, wow, there's something that I can do all 3 together. I've always loved dancing. I've always loved singing. I've always loved acting. This combines all 3. Super cool. So I after that, I got into community theater, which is a great resource for like, being able to be a part of theater in a way that's like doesn't have as many barriers. You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to have all these, accolades or whatever. Really, you don't have to have a degree in the professional world either. But it's, generally local theaters that hold open auditions. There's no bars with the auditions, and you get to be in the shows. So I did lots of shows with community theater, all sorts of stuff from like High School Musical to I got to be the first Black Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, not The Wiz, The Wizard of Oz, in my huge like citywide yearly show where they have like 100 kids in the show as Munchkins. Like it was a huge production. We went through like we had parades where we're like waving in a convertible, like as the Dorothy. So it was really cool.
Cute.
And then let's see. So I was in music production in high school, basically, but I was doing the musicals every year with the theater kids. So I was kind of a hybrid kid. And then senior year of high school, coming up to senior year, I heard all of my drama friends being like, oh, I'm going to audition for UNCSA. It's an amazing program and it's really competitive. And it's like, the Juilliard of the South, blah, blah, blah. I want to audition, but it's super competitive. Like none of us make it in. And I was like, ooh, I kind of overheard it. And I was like, I want to audition too. I was one of them, I was like an honorary drama student. And so I was like, oh, I want to audition too. So several of us, not everybody, but several people who are doing theater at Weaver Academy, we auditioned for UNCSA. And I got I got like 2 acting sessions that I think my parents helped me pay for or I paid for. I don't fully remember. I had like 2 sessions to kind of polish up my monologues because I didn't have any, drama training like them. And just to make sure, it was strong. And then, I auditioned for UNCSA. They have a senior year drama program that is a conservatory style program. You live on campus with the rest of the college students. You're in a different building. They have a whole high school program. And so miraculously, me and one guy from the drama school got into UNCSA.
Wow.
And I was like shook. I was like, oh my gosh. And, thousands of people audition all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about 17, maybe 18 of us in that whole class. And so, I spent my senior year. I left Weaver early. I left home early. And I moved out and moved on campus to do this 1-year conservatory drama program at UNCSA. And when I say that was one of the most transformative, excellent, well-rounded drama programs that I've ever done, and it's still, I use tools from it to this day. And then last, because I feel like this is long-winded, but the last
you're fine, keep going.
That, okay. And so, it was super cool. Like, I think the cool thing, just a side note about conservatory versus liberal arts program, because Elon is considered liberal arts for, musical theater, because you have to do, the other topics like biology, calculus, blah, blah, blah. Right. And I was torn between staying with the conservatory because I auditioned for UNCSA for the college program and I got in. Super grateful because it was also super competitive. And even the people from our high school class that had been going there for a year, only I think 2 or 3 of us got into the college program. So it was a huge honor. But, let's see, what am I trying to say? So the conservatory program is really cool because it's intensive. You get to just focus on your craft, and it's amazing. And after doing both, that's what I preferred, because I was able to just focus on every element of my craft and kind of hone in on niches. And with the liberal arts program, in some ways, as an artsy student, as somebody who knows what they want to do, knows where they want to go in their life, it almost feels like, it feels like unnecessary for you to be sitting in like the chemistry of cooking class or sitting in a freaking calculus class. It's like, I am not going to use this. I'm going to be auditioning, putting together sheet music,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something to consider, is like you get to further your education in other subjects in liberal arts, but and that has its pluses if you're maybe interested in minoring in something totally different. But yeah, with conservatory, you get to kind of really laser focus in on that thing and things around, like for me, the arts. So we had yoga classes several times a week. That was part of our curriculum. We had dance class. We had voice class several times a week. This is at UNCSA. And then we had multiple different drama teachers come in and work with us on things, everything from mask work to Linklater, to Stanislavski, to, all the different styles and of acting and, freeing the natural voice, all those things. And yeah, at the end of that year, it was amazing, transformative. I met some of my best friends in that program, and we trauma bonded, because arts programs can be very rigorous and traumatic in some ways, because, it's almost like in some ways they can tear you down to like build you back up. And yeah, so you bond with your classmates in a lot of ways through, you having the growing pains. But yeah, I knew, I was like, I want to do musical theater. Like I want to do musicals because I'd been doing that in high school and I knew I wanted to do more of that. So, I was looking at all the top musical theater programs, U of M, NYU, Elon University was one of the top 10. I basically applied to all the top 10 musical theater programs and UNCSA because I knew they had some of the most amazing alumni, most amazing people today. And yeah, I was torn, but I basically auditioned for everything. I got into, the conservatory acting program at UNCSA, which was a huge honor. And then I also got into Elon, and I think 9 out of the 10 schools that I auditioned for. So it was I was super grateful. I had a huge success rate. And the funny thing is, like, after all of the auditioning, I was like, Mom, I think I want to do a gap year. And my mom was like, look, you've gotten into all these schools. You can do the gap year after, okay? This was expensive to be going all around and things, paying for the applications. She's like, do your gap year after. So put a pin in that because I do come back around to that.
Okay.
But yeah.
Very cool.
So I auditioned for Elon, and I basically I was torn between there and NYU, but NYU was really expensive. Like some of it came down to the cost, and with Elon. UNCSA, because it was in state, it was cheaper. And then Elon was also, I got the highest level talent-based scholarship you could get. Still, it was like a drop in the bucket at a PWI private school. I believe it's private. Isn't Elon private?
It's private, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I thought so. Anyway, so I got a big scholarship from there, which helped some. And yeah, I basically felt my heart leading me towards more musical theater rather than just acting and a little music on the side. And that's how I ended up at Elon. And Elon was really intense, but a great program. I met some good, awesome teachers that really helped me with pivotal parts of my voice. But also, yeah, it was a difficult time as well. Going through that program for multiple reasons. So yeah, hope that was a quick rundown. It's hard to like recap your educational history, but.
No, I feel like that was great. And also because musical theater, like being an entertainer is not simple. Like, we get other people on here, like they can, sum it up in a few sentences, but I feel like you have many things that you do drama, you do dancing, you do singing. So it's hard to wrap that up. I think that was perfect because I also didn't know. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, yeah, it's not linear, especially
that's the word.
Yeah, it's a field that you don't have to. I mean, I didn't have to do any of that. I could have gone straight to New York, like some of my friends, some of my friends did, and just enter into the industry, raw and stuff. And people do find success from that as well. So you do not have to go to school for it. You find some valuable skills from it, but honestly, it's not a complete necessity. And I forgot to mention, I also years later did a Lambda program here in the UK. That was when I was kind of testing coming out here. And I did like a 1-month like film program at Lambda. I don't want to mess up the abbreviation right now.
Okay, no, you're good. Look, we're amongst greatness right now. This is like, I'm really intrigued. I think it's really cool. I remember always seeing you at Elon, but like just hearing like all that all your accolades is really, really cool. So, we're honored to have you on here. Yeah, you're welcome. And I was going to say, I didn't even know the difference between a conservatory and like just a liberal arts program. Like I knew I think Kimmy and I both know like liberal arts, we have to go through like the gen eds before you really get to your major.
Yeah.
And you, like,
Let me tell
and you
you, I
also
hated
explained.
that.
I know. Yeah, I think most of us do.
We
I
all
think most
did.
of us. Yeah, I feel like most of us did. I
Yeah,
will
and
say
I'm still
though,
trying to rack my brain, like, the benefit of it. Now I'm like, did that calculus class really help me at the end of the day?
no, it doesn't. But I'm gonna say I think the benefit is for some people that don't know what they want to do at all. I think
Yes.
at the price point, as you know, if I was going back at the price point, I may say figure out your life before you pay for Elon education,
Mhm.
which is a great education. I don't regret Elon at all. Never regret Elon.
Mhm.
However, I fooled around too much, and still didn't really get a degree that I wanted. Like, didn't get a degree that was even interesting to me. However, we're here. It's
Oh my
cool.
gosh. Wow.
Yeah, but
That
see, but
happens
that's
though.
what I was like. But I think, musical theater, you all typically, like, you're so nuanced in that, and you're doing it, like you said, since high school. So you kind of have an idea, like, that you really, like, you're already in the field, So
Yeah, I knew as a
there's
kid.
certain exactly. There's certain people that just know that they know that they know. And I knew I had a lot of interest,
Mhm.
but for me, I was kind of like all over the place, and still, like I said, didn't land. But it's
Mhm.
okay. Um, don't like I said, don't regret my education at all. But yeah, I would just say, like,
Mhm.
at the price point, liberal arts, you don't want to just kind of fool around, because yeah, you're taking calculus
Yeah.
and language classes, and there's really cool classes, but it's like, are you still really gearing down to what you want to do? Probably not.
Yeah.
Um, but it's
Mm.
all good. I think that's very cool that you just, like, explain the differences. 'Cause I was gonna ask, like, how would you recommend a student,
Mm.
figure out the difference, like, if you want to go to conservatory or a 4-year school, or like liberal arts, and you really explained it, because it's just,
Yeah.
do you want to have a broader experience, but you get at liberal arts, or do you really want to drill down
Yes.
more at the conservatory? So I think that was I think it was a
Exactly.
great rundown.
Yeah, and I think the broader experience, you also get to meet broader, well, different, all very different types of people. If you're outgoing and you go out of your way to do that, you can be very insular in your own program at Elon, or at any liberal arts as well. Um, but yeah, I think it's also if you want to do something that's like not related at all to, your
hmm
major, in
hmm
some ways you can kind of split at a liberal arts more, whereas conservatory I really enjoyed because I could, it just was all related to everything that I knew that I wanted to do, and it was just all related. Nothing felt unnecessary.
Yeah, I think, and I feel like that's similar to, like, community college too, because you do, like, a few gen eds, but then
Mm,
you're spending the majority of, 'cause you only have 2 years really. You're spending the majority of
mhm,
your degree focusing on your career. So I think that
mm.
was a great differentiation. I could ask you like a million questions, but I'll just ask because sake of time. But so after you get to Elon, and then take us to maybe like I don't know when you all start really thinking about the future in your career. So, like, can you take
Mhm.
us through preparing to, like, be where you are now, like professional entertainer? Like, what were your next steps after Elon and things, like auditioning, or like preparing to audition, and what you
Mhm.
wanted to do after that?
Yeah, so let's see. So my parents were very instrumental in like helping me and encouraging me in the field. I mean, they're both engineers, both geeks, but also they're both musicians. They play music and stuff. And so, sometimes parents aren't as supportive of, kids who know that they want to be in the arts because they feel like, oh, you got to have a backup, blah, blah, blah. But I truly do believe like you have to follow what your calling is and what you feel like you're really drawn to, especially if that drawing is strong. And, my parents saw that at a young age, and well, around when I was like 15 or 16. And so for my 16th birthday, this is related. For my 16th birthday, they took me and several of my friends to New York. And we saw my first few Broadway shows, and I saw three of them. They were
Uh-huh.
great. We saw Shrek, the musical, when it first came out, with Sutton Foster and all of them. It was so good. We saw 13 and we saw Wicked. And like that was so hugely instrumental, not only seeing where I said I wanted to go career wise, New York, Broadway, that's every musical theater kid's dream generally.
hmm
But also seeing what the location is like and what it would be like living in that city, things like that. And I'll have to say, it really opened my eyes, really It opened my eyes in several good ways. One of them, we went in January because I'm a Capricorn, honey. We went in January, like around that first week of January. I'm January 6th is my birthday. And it was freaking cold. It was like negative something degrees, like -6 or something. And I am a summer, spring girly. Like I hate winter, right? So I loved the shows and I was like, I'll be back, New York. I'm coming back to you. But after I visited there, that time was, impressed on me, the weather. And also I went back for I went back for a little program we did at Elon where several of us students went to New York for like a week or two. And we worked with Eden Espinosa and several other people with Kurt. And our teacher, he's a great voice teacher. He has Wolf Studios now. I don't think he's still at Elon. And we were up there as well. And that was also during winter. Did some open calls, things like that. Anyway, basically exposing yourself to like the city where like the biggest part of your industry is in. Hoo-wee, child, that's important. because yeah, I knew I loved musical theater. I knew, yeah, maybe I'll do Broadway one day, like when I'm coming back as a movie star and I like, star as a specific role on Broadway that, I'm guest starring in it. But I was like, I cannot see myself living through these winters.
New York is something else. It's something else.
And it was so busy and like, it was super busy. I'm coming from growing up in the suburbs. It was super busy. It was kind of dirty. It was kind of, I had some positive reflections of it, but you want to be able to basically be in the area that you're thinking of wanting to be in your career long enough so that you can take the rose-colored glasses off, if that makes sense, so that you can, see the good and the bad. Because sometimes when you first go there, everything's great. Same with going to LA, everything's amazing. Oh my gosh, it's always sunny here, but if you stay there for maybe 2 months, you see, oh, the traffic is crazy. You see that there's so many elements of each city that has downsides and upsides. And it's just figuring out what you want to take on. So yeah, that was one of the main things was like, where do I want to move when I leave? And initially for a while it was New York until I realized I was like, I actually don't think I want to live there. And basically, circling back to the gap year thing, I've always been obsessed with traveling. My parents instilled that into us when we were super young. We were always traveling places as a family, just a huge privilege. I know not everybody gets that privilege, but we were exposed at an early age, and I knew I loved to travel. So my decision on that was delayed because I said, I'm going to do some sort of work that involves my career. Now that I've got this degree that involves performing, but that gets me to be paid to travel. And so I went to one of the cities that I knew they were doing auditions for cruise work. I was like, I want to work on a cruise because then I get
we were just talking
room and
about
board.
that 5 seconds ago. We were
Yeah,
just talking about that.
Yeah.
Baby, it's a lush job, especially if you don't have kids and you don't have a mortgage or anything you're paying, because they pay for your room and board, they pay for your food, literally everything is covered. And on top of that, for performers, the pay is really great. So you're basically pocketing all of that cash on top of being in a gorgeous new beach or new gorgeous location every day. And then performing every night as well. So you're honing your endurance and you're in gorgeous places. And so I did cruise work. That was my main goal. Right when I left, I was like, I'm going to travel, get paid to travel. And that's exactly what I did. And so, yeah, I went on I did cruises. I was in the rock band for a couple years with Carnival. And then I moved to their theater review shows as well as a leading singer. And both of those were extremely, I learned a ton about myself as a performer because the cool thing about cruising is you're doing it so often, you're doing it every single night in a lot of those positions as a band singer or a theater, what they call it is playlist singer on Carnival, but all ships have theater shows, right? And either way, you're performing pretty much every night and it allows you to really get comfortable on stage and really learn to play and also learn to how to have endurance and all sorts of amazing things. So yeah, I did cruising for 3 years. I went through a bit of an injury twice really, and vocally, so that affected my career. I had to take a break, get surgery, blah, blah, blah. And thank God, I'm so grateful I can sing today. And yeah, after that, I was like, okay, now I was like, Lord, where do you want me to go? I knew I was ready to get my land legs after I'd done about 4 or 5 6-month contracts. And yeah, I honestly, candidly, I prayed about it. I would try to ask God about everything. Like, where do you want me to go next? And yeah, and I just felt a drawing to check out the UK, even though I knew that they were known to have some colder weather, have some rainy
That's what I
weather or
was
whatever. And I was
gonna say.
like, yeah. But the thing is, that's what I got in my spirit. That's what the Holy Spirit told me. He was like, you need to go to London. And I was like, and I had
Uncomfortable
objections to that
things.
from multiple. Yeah, and I had objections to it for multiple reasons. One of it was ego, okay? Because I had a partner at the time. We had met on ships, and he was from London. And I was like, if I go to London, people are going to think I'm moving here, trying to chase my boyfriend, blah, 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 blah. I cannot let people think that because that is not what I'm trying to do. I'm an independent woman, blah, 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 blah. And so I was really hesitant to do it because of that, because I knew, I'm the type of person, I'm like very career driven. Like I'm not about to go anywhere for a relationship. I know that unless I feel like, we're about to get married, obviously. But, I was resistant to it because of that. I just felt like God kept telling me to go there. And I was like, okay, let me try to listen. And there's this whole like divine orchestration story about how it all worked out. But essentially, I listened. God opened amazing doors where I basically had agency representation before I even got to the country. And I started auditioning here, and like the rest is history. I've been doing I made my West End debut with the biggest show in town on Hamilton. I played all the leading roles, Eliza, Angelica, and Peggy, and then moved up to playing Angelica full time. I've done a bunch of audiobook things on Audible. I've got 4 books that I've narrated now, several commercials, done some TV commercials and some voiceover commercials. So yeah, it's just been really great. And I know that I'm so glad I listened to the Holy Spirit and listened to that spirit within, even though I knew, I got deterred from New York. But from the weather, that was one of the big things. It sounds silly, but I was just like, I do not know if I'll be happy here. And, but then I listened to my spirit when the Lord told me to come here. And I'm really glad that I did because it's all been so divinely aligned.
Amen. That's awesome. Love to hear that.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like that's always the story. It's like, Lord, I can't see what's happening, but I'm going to do it anyway. And he blows it up to your dreams or what your expectation is. So that's just beautiful that it all turned out how you wanted it to. And still having that piece of being abroad as well. So that's like amazing.
Which is a whole other hurdle, let me tell you. Because again, when you're walking in divine alignment with where the Spirit has you to go, even the hardest hurdles, the Lord will just provide. And that's literally what's happened,
That's right. Yeah.
Because just the whole visa situation can be really difficult anywhere you go in another country. Is just like getting the right to work is a whole other element. So you want to make sure that you're being led to be there and not just being there because everybody else is going there. Because there's a big influx of American talent that's coming here now because I think they've seen so much of the success of us Americans that are already here, and so. And this market, I feel like in some ways it's a little less saturated than LA or New York can be. There's several draws. We're surrounded by amazing countries. We can go to Paris or Greece or Italy easily.
On a train, and call it a day.
Yeah. So yeah, it's such a blessing. I'm super grateful that I took that chance of. Ooh, sometimes when you feel like you're hearing from the Spirit, or sometimes people say feeling it in their gut, sometimes people don't have that language, or, if you're not a believer, you may say, oh, I felt this in my gut, your gut, your spirit. And sometimes you just gotta make that decision, be like, okay, just keep hearing this. Like, it's usually something that just keeps coming up, keeps bubbling up, and you may try to be like, oh, it's not logical. Oh, no, that's something, it's generally that type of stuff that's divinely from the Spirit. That's what I found from, hearing from God over the years. It's just, it's generally the stuff that just keeps kind of quietly, gently bubbling up. It says the Spirit of God is a gentle, still voice, quiet, still voice, right? It's not
Right.
loud and overbearing. So I think general advice for anybody that's looking into their careers, like, do not be persuaded by the loud, abrasive voices that are all yelling at you to do this, do that, do this, do that. Listen to that quiet bubbling up from your gut, from the Spirit, that is like this inner knowing, or even this inner like itch that just keeps kind of rearing its head of like, oh, I've always, does that make sense?
Oh,
Yeah. Perfect sense.
Spot on, girl. Spot on. And then when you're like, Lord, am I hearing you right? Am I,
Yeah.
but let me not even go on a
Right.
tangent.
But
But
you don't have peace until you obey. So yeah.
Yep.
And the thing is like, and the thing is also like, God knows, and like the Spirit knows that we're learning, right? And we're imperfect. So even if, let's say, worst case scenario, you misheard and stuff, the stuff that divine Spirit guides you to is not going to kill you. It's not going to take you out. It's not going to be stuff that ends your everything. So you can take that risk knowing that, as long as it's in alignment with your higher self, with divinity, with like what the word says, in alignment and not outside of that, it's not going to kill you. So even if you make a wrong decision, it's like, oh, okay, well, let's just start over. We can reset. And you can reset at any time. It's never too late.
I didn't know I needed motivation today with that, but didn't expect that today.
Yep.
But I
Yes.
appreciate a
Yes.
good reminder. Oh, that's awesome.
It's hard because once you get ingrained into your career, it's like you start to think, oh, well, I've climbed up this ladder now. I guess I just need to stay here. And that's been an interesting pivot for me now, actually, is that season that I'm in now. I've recently left this, really comfy, consistent paycheck, West End job, like top of the industry theater job, because something that's always been bubbling up in my spirit too is doing more film stuff. And sometimes you'll find within the niche of let's say you've picked what you want to do, right? Let's say you for me, I knew I wanted to be a performer, but there's so many branches of that, right? And so sometimes you fall into a certain branch and you do really well in that branch, right? But sometimes the easy success of one ladder that you're able to get up into your niche may not be fully what you wanted to do as your end game or your full thing, right? And so I think in some ways for me, it's this pivot that's been bubbling up in my spirit now. It's like, oh, I feel like that season with me doing 8 shows a week on West End, I'm ready to take a pause on that and now focus more on my own original music and focus on my film and TV career. Because the funny thing is, you can be making a consistent paycheck in an industry that's where you're in, but may not be quite the niche that you want to be in, but it's consistent, right? And it can continue to put the thing that you're called to do on the back burner for years and years and years. And so you continue to put off something that God is calling you to do that's even more niched down, but you're like, oh, but this is still my industry. I'm doing kind of what I'm supposed to be doing. It feels right in some areas, and it's like there's certain times in life where you're called to even niche down even more. Yeah.
This is
I've just
so
been
good.
yapping, but
No, this has been really good. I think it's been applicable, something that I'm going through right now, very applicable to me. So I think the Lord's trying to talk to me too. But
yeah, it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very difficult. Something that also just piqued my interest too is because I know like we have like a lot of listeners too that are young, and when they're young, like I just want to see my name in lights, right? So I think sometimes parents also just hear, they want to be like an actress. They just want to be famous. But from listening to you, I am hearing a lot of other pivoting opportunities, which sounds really, really interesting. Like you were saying, you were able to work on a cruise ship, then you were able to actually be on Broadway, and now you're able to kind of get into to film. So there are different avenues for someone to do, which is really interesting. I think this will also give parents who are listening a little bit of comfort as well. I'm just wondering if, I know you did different things. I know if you could, I know you did a bunch of things, but briefly, could you kind of tell us a little bit of like, what did a day-to-day look like when you work on a cruise ship? And then like, what did your day-to-day kind of look like when you were on West End? I was like, those like the Broadway of the UK, West End. For you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me say broadly to the thing you said earlier. that there's this concept that as an actor or performer, you either have to make it and be on the red carpet in Hollywood, or you're broke. And there really is an in between. There really is this like, I don't want to say middle class of it. No, that sounds terrible. It's not that. But there are people that are making like middle class wages. Does that make sense? Like they're making a living off of acting, but they're not necessarily famous. So just know that there is, for instance, like you're an actor, right? And you could go into doing voiceover, and you could be narrating books and also teaching theater at your local theater. And, you could be doing several different things that are all acting based, and you could be making a living off of that. Now, it can be hard, it is freelance work, but it is possible to, be a working actor and not be famous. Does that make sense? It's not the two extremes. So I just want to say that. I hope that's really clear, because I get it. Like sometimes when your child may come to you wanting to do this or that, and regarding the arts, it can seem like, oh, it's an all or nothing, it's a pass or fail. And it really isn't that. You can really make a living. And I think I've been on the side of both of them where it's like I'm making a living, but I'm not famous, i.e. cruise work type stuff, but I'm making a good living. I'm very comfortable. I am buying all the clothes that I want. And then also doing West End stuff where it's like a lot more clout and things. And it's, the semblance of clout or recognition. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. As far as the day-to-day so first of all, keep in mind, this is self-employed, freelance type work, right? So you're generally an independent contractor on whatever contracts you're on. And that's even with, at least here in London, I'm not sure on Broadway, but you're an independent contractor, basically. So you want to be prepared with knowing how to file your taxes, or hope that they are taking your taxes out automatically, like W-9 versus 1099 type of deal. So that's an important element, is, having an idea of how to file your taxes or having someone to help you with that. But as far as day to day for ships, it depends on your position. And funnily enough, I'm kind of doing a little bit of ships now. So like I said, I'm in a pivot. I've left theater consistent work, so I've been doing some audiobooks. I've been doing some like shorter contracts, and one of them has been being a fly-on artist on cruise ships, which means that I put together 2 solo shows, and I fly on to the ship and do those shows on the ship for about 2-3 weeks, and then I leave. So there's several different. Yeah, it's super cool. So it's great because it's like now that I do have rent to pay, and I do want to be in the city more often, it's another perfect way to still do cruise work, travel for free, and not be gone for as long. So yeah, if you're doing band work, so like cover band stuff, if you're doing theater shows, whether those are review shows or book musicals, they have both on ships. That's the other thing you can build your resume on certain ships when they have big book musicals, like, the stuff you see on Broadway. And often the Broadway teams are involved with teaching you the shows and all that stuff on the ships as well. So, sometimes people have an old stigma of cruise work being like cheesy or whatever. That is not true anymore. It pays great. The shows are excellent. And, you're often working with the New York Broadway teams if you're in a book musical. But yeah, so the day-to-day I sidetracked myself. The day-to-day for band and theater, you would get up in the morning. You generally work in the evening, starting at 6 p.m. or so. For theater, you'd have to do a mic check or something, and then you do the show at night. Generally, for the band, you do maybe 3 or 4 sets. For the theater, you may do 2 shows that night, probably 45-minute to like hour-and-a-half shows. And during the day, basically, you're completely free. You can get up. If it's a day where they're in port, you get up, leave the ship at 9, 10 a.m., and you're in the Dominican Republic. You go swimming. You go to a nice all-inclusive or anything. Go on the beach. Go to your favorite cafe. And the cool thing is when you're on a ship, generally those type of contracts, band and theater, those are like 6-month contracts at least. Sometimes they're like 9 months or more. So it is a long time to be on there. But the cool thing is it's almost like a college, like fun atmosphere. Like you're living in cabins close to each other. You're kikiing with everybody together. You get like such a camaraderie because you basically become family for that next half a year to a year. So yeah, that's part of it. Is you're eating guest areas and stuff, going off the ship to beaches, or sometimes it'll be a sea day and you can just read or go around the ship and, chill, hang out, take yourself to restaurants on the ship. So yeah, that's kind of like a quick rundown of that. And generally you have a day off, sometimes two. And oftentimes the cast will do something together. You'll all go to an all-inclusive and drink and, eat and do water activities. The other really cool thing about doing cruise work is you can do excursions on certain cruise lines. You can get like free excursions or really discounted ones. And so I've done all sorts of stuff like swimming with the turtles and stingrays and going in caves, jet skis, all sorts of freaking stuff. It's amazing. So yeah, that's cruise stuff. That's the quickest way I could encapsulate that. With fly-on work, honestly, it's even better in the sense that you're only there for a couple weeks. It's even better in the sense that if you want a shorter contract, you're only there for a couple weeks. The pay is generally even higher, but the pay is really good either way with all of the positions, performing positions specifically. But yeah, you're there for a couple weeks. You generally have maybe 2 to 3, let's say 3 to 4 shows per cruise. So you're having to perform less, which is nice. So less work for more pay, and you generally get complete guest privileges and sometimes your own guest cabin. So the rest of the time you're literally like, for instance, the last cruise I was on, I went to Italy, I went to Greece, I went to, I got to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa and got to do this pasta making class in another part of Italy and stuff. So it's amazing because you're basically getting more of the travel side and you're having to perform a little bit less. So it's a super lush job. Generally, that type of thing, you have to have some sort of clout to get into doing that, or, have a really good show that's put together that shows some good reviews and things. So yeah, that's cruise work. I've encapsulated those 3 different positions as quickly as I could. And then the day-to-day with West End, it's 8 show weeks. It can be brutal, but if you come from cruise work like I did, and you know about your vocal health, which is imperative, I cannot say it enough. That's something that they don't really cover that much in any programs that I know of right now. But I teach vocal health classes. So if anybody out there who is a singer or something, you want to get up on your vocal health so to be able to do an 8-show week, feel free to reach out to me. But yeah, that's the most important thing, I think, with all of these jobs, because you are singing difficult repertoire almost every night and sometimes 2 shows a day with, and who knows if you slept well or, so that's an element. You are an athlete. You're an Olympic level athlete with your voice and with your dance, with your acting. So yeah, and that's true on cruises and it's true on West End. And so generally you're doing 8 shows a week, right? Sometimes more, like here, 6, they have 9 shows, but their shows are shorter. Hamilton is 3 hours long. So even 2 shows is 6 hours of very intensive work and lots of prep before and after that show. So a day in the life going to Hamilton, I would get up. I'm a night owl, so I'd go to bed at like 3 a.m. and I'd get up at like 10. And, I'd make myself breakfast, maybe go work out, keep your body toned. And then, do any sort of chores during the day, get groceries, clean your house. And then I would take the tube or the subway, if you're in New York, to your theater. When you get to the theater, you would sign in at the front desk or the box office sometimes. And then you go upstairs, depending on how early you got there. Now, here's a difference between Broadway and West End. West End, we have collective warm-ups. So we're all supposed to be at the theater, like with Hamilton, at 6, and we'll warm up for about 30 minutes, half an hour together, a vocal warm-up and a dance warm-up, or movement warm-up. On Broadway, it's all up to you. You get to do warm-up how you want on your own. There's no requirement to do it as a group. So that's a difference there. So yeah, we do the group warm up here on West End. Then after those 30 minutes, I'd go upstairs. Generally, I would do my makeup then, or I would try, if I was really good and early, I would try to do my makeup before warm up because it is off to the races. After warm up, it's very little time for you to warm up your voice more because, the warm up as a group is generic, but generally, if you're doing a leading role, things like that, you want to do specific things so that you feel you're ready to hit all your notes that night. So I do my own warm up while I'm vocal warm up while I'm doing my makeup. And then somebody will come into your room and do your wig. And that generally takes time. You're chatting with the wiggy person. And, you want to have a good relationship with everybody that's not on stage because it's not about you. And that's the thing, too, is like it's such a team sport being an actor, being a performer. It is not about look at me, look at me, look at me. It really is about, all the people that put it together because even though you don't see the people who are doing the wigs, doing the makeup, possibly doing the costumes, we are all integral in putting the show together. So I think that's a big misconception too, is like, my dad used to tell me, he would try to force me to play basketball when I was younger, basketball, lacrosse, and all these sports, both of my parents, because they're like, it's a great team building. You need to learn how to work as a team. And I kept trying to tell them, I was like, look, I really am working as a team when I'm in a theater show.
Right.
And so, and that is true. It's very collaborative. So yeah, all the different team players are coming together and making sure that you're ready to go on stage. Then you'll get like a half-hour call, 5-minute call, all those different calls, all the way up until you're supposed to be backstage at places, okay? And then places is when you're standing backstage, ready for the show to start. Once everybody is in their place, show will go up and you'll do the whole show. For Hamilton, it's a 3-hour marathon. At the end of those 3 hours, you come down, you have to run back up to your dressing room, take your costume off, take off all your makeup if you want to. I was lazy. I would just keep it on and take it off at home. But, take off all your makeup, take down your hair, take off your wig, cool down vocally, and then go outside and possibly sign several autographs, different playbills or programs, and talk to people who are really excited about the show. And then go home. You make it home around 11 p.m. If you're further, you may make it home like 12 a.m. And it all starts over. So, and on double show days, it's even crazier because the first show, like for us, I think was 2:30. We had to be there at 1. Just everything starts quicker. And then you have a very short dinner break, 45 minutes, and then you do it all over again, everything. So it's very, very intensive. It's not for the weak. It's a lot. It's actually insane. And it's a lot of ways, it's a lot more than like doing a 9-to-5 job for sure. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, you're the real deal.
Sure.
That's good. That's incredible.
For real. That's like, I feel like I was just losing weight listening to that.
Yeah, that's the good thing is like it is easier to stay toned and stuff because you are running around so much just from the sheer movement of everything. Yeah.
No, I think you've done a really good job. Like I think Kimmy mentioned it too. Like you haven't talked about like the fame or anything of it. You talk like this is real work, and you even mentioned like you all really are athletes. A lot of people are out there like dancers are not athletes, or they say silly things. Anyone that's moving, they'd be like, people that do cheer. People are at like you all. That's athletic, like you said. Like you're not just using your vocals. Like you have to use your whole entire body on stage. So I mean, I think you've done a great job of drilling down the nitty gritty of it. Like this is a real career. It ain't like you said, it ain't for the weak either.
I say one other thing too?
Sure.
One other element, day in the life. That's going to be the day in the life of any actor or performer at a certain point. Anybody self-employed, really, is the athleticism of being unemployed. Let me talk about it. Because that is another element too, is like, and that sounds so scary to, especially if the generation above us and things like that, like it was a lot more commonplace, that you have a 9-to-5, something consistent, and that's more standard. Now, some of the biggest opportunities for gaining capital and for really garnering wealth are people who are self-employed. And that also comes along with the risk and the in-betweens of, transitions, pivots, and leaving certain jobs and transitioning into other ones. And so right now, I'm doing shorter contractual work and stuff, so I'm in stages of unemployment too. And so that is something that as an actor, as a performer, you got to learn not to look at negatively, because really it's not. Really it's freedom, because you're getting to choose, like, hey, I want to do this. Hey, I want to do that. And yeah, so I just would say that, like, the day in the life, like when you're in your unemployment days, or, in between gigs and you're technically unemployed then, or sometimes you're unemployed and you don't know what's next. And that's so common, even for really successful actors, And I think with that situation, it's, creating a routine for yourself, putting yourself out there on social media should be part of your curriculum, or, making your brand known, because when you are a performer, you yourself, you are a brand. So me, Jordan Frazier, I am a brand, and what I'm sharing online, things like that, is all part of my branding, and like how I want the world to see me, how I want executives to be able to discover me. So yeah, when you're in your unemployment stages, you have that freedom to curate that presence much more actively, and that's a huge benefit. And also, and you can do side stuff. Some people do nannying, some people do dog sitting. Some people do like sales or weekend jobs, bartending. You can do those things and stuff, and take those jobs. You can also, like, I teach voice lessons on the side. So it's good to have something that is related to your craft, that you can make your own hours, so that when you're in the unemployed stages. So yeah, I'm currently doing like a weekend job that I'm starting to do, that's like sales related to animals, because I like that, and sales has to do with acting as well. Definitely. And then also I have my voice lessons, so I can curate and, pick how many students I want and my rates, and I can control my income in that way as well. So hopefully that makes sense too. I just don't want to skim over that element of it, that there are times of unemployment, and doesn't have to be scary, and it's not something bad. It's something normal as a self-employed person. And really, the margins of the money that you make and that you can make on when you are working are way higher than a salaried job. There are gigs that you can make $20K with one day of work. There are times when I've gotten commercials where I've made
don't convince me what a good time.
Right. I was like, say
I
less.
made $5-10K from one day, 2 days of work. Okay. So when you're unemployed for 3 weeks after that, it is okay, honey. You know what I mean? So
That's right.
it all balances out. And I think really basically you just have to be really fiscally responsible and save for those rainy days, and really space out your money, so that when you have a big flush of cash, you prepare for possibly, months or weeks of not getting any cash.
Yeah. And it's very interesting that you said that, because I had this thought yesterday, because when you're on LinkedIn, you're seeing all these stories of people that are looking for jobs, and they're talking about job hunting. And I'm just like, I always think about when people are like, oh, you don't want to be an artist because they want to be a starving artist. I'm like, baby, y'all are still looking for regular jobs. Everybody, you have to work no matter what. If it's like, you might as well do what your passion is and filter in and focus on that, because you're going to get there in time. So honestly, at that point, do something that you love at that point, and just filter in and focus on doing that. No job is 110% secure.
Exactly.
Do what the Lord is calling you to do. So
exactly. And you know what? The arts is more accessible than it's ever been before. There are people that are making it and blowing up from TikTok, as people know. People blowing up from doing, from doing threads, and you know what I mean?
Right.
It is so accessible nowadays. And if you make your brand known and really create something unique and use every unique element of you, and just be as authentically you as you can, that will make you a magnet, and it will magnetize people to you. So yeah, I forget why I was saying that. Why I brought that up? I think I was just saying that it's like, I think I was just saying that, there used to be this concept, and it used to be true that, it's a lot of bars to get to Hollywood, or to get to being a working actor. There's a lot of bars. You have to be able to have this agent and have this type of person, and that is so not as true now, because you can put your own self on. You can put yourself on. You can put your music on all sorts of stuff. You can put your music on Spotify tomorrow. You can put your music on TikTok tomorrow. You can put your monologues online whenever. And so it really is so free to be able to get into this. career than ever before.
So true. Girl, yeah, I'm gonna say it again. You're the real deal. I feel like we could talk to you for like another 3 hours, but we're not going to. But I feel like, no, it's been like really, really fun. Just like you've given really great advice, and I definitely have a better understanding of, like you said, we see it on stage and it's just like for us entertainment, but we don't
Yeah.
always get to know like the nitty gritty of it. And like you said too, like this is a real job. Like you are working like the rest of us that work a 9 to 5. You have to think about taxes, think about your time management,
Yep.
think about getting places, thinking about your, how you're going to eat, during unemployment. Like you said, I think you also just dropped a great piece of advice about the financial responsibility that people like you all have in the industry. Like, you all foresee the periods of unemployment, or, sometimes you do, sometimes you
Yes.
don't, but you having to save your money, having to be fiscally responsible, and saving and budgeting, things like that. So I feel like anyone listening who had no idea now has a great idea and can't say they didn't know. So if they, go into this career. So we've really enjoyed you, Jordan. This has been so awesome. We're really grateful that you spoke with us today, and we might have you back, girl. 'Cause I feel like there's more. We might have to have you
Yeah.
back.
Yeah,
We'll
there's
do
so much
part
more. I
two.
mean, I feel like
Yeah.
there's so much to this industry and so many avenues you can go down. So I'll be happy to do a part 2 with you guys too if you want
Yeah.
later, because
Yeah.
there's so many elements. And maybe even if there's people that want to ask any questions or something like that, maybe
Sure.
have them submit that and then, see what people are curious about. Because I get that, my industry is something that can kind of seem very glitz and glam and can seem like this obscure, like fantasized about thing, but it really is, there's a lot of reality to it.
Yeah, no, that's great. Maybe we could do that. Have people ask questions, and then that'll help. Got our conversation too. Before we hop off, though, can you just tell people where they can find you, and if you have like things that are coming up that you want to share about, that people can come see you if they're in London. I think we got some people in London listening. I don't know, or if you're traveling to London,
Okay.
where can they find you on social media? Where can they find you in
For your
London?
classes.
Yeah,
Plug yourself.
exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. Mhm.
So on social media, I'm Jordan B. Frazier, Jordan, B as in boy, Frazier. They say Z here, Zier. But yeah, that's my handle, Jordan B. Frazier, and I have a link tree on there that links you to other things. And feel free to, you can just send me a message on there. I also have my email and WhatsApp linked on my Instagram. If you want any voice lessons, I help people with public speaking. If you're losing your voice a lot, if you have any sort of career that has you, that's very front facing and that has you speaking a lot, or if you want to get into singing, even if it's just for karaoke, or if you want to get into acting or any sort of audition prep. As you heard, I auditioned for like 12 schools, I believe. And I got into almost all of them. So, auditioning is one of my favorite things. A lot of people have struggle with that, and that's something that I can really help you with as well. So feel free to reach out, just DM me on any of the contact sources on my Instagram. And yeah, I would love to work with you guys. And I hope that you found something that I said helpful. I know I'm a yapper, and I go on tangents, but hopefully in the end, it all made sense.
It definitely made sense. I feel like you answered like all of our questions, like, and more. And
Cool.
I think both Kim and I found a lot of value in your everything you get to say. And I know our listeners are going to like do the same thing. And you're very like charismatic and vibrant too. So this was really fun. You did a great job.
Thank
But this is
you.
your job, so you know how to do this. This is not new to you. So yeah, thanks so much for being on here with us, Jordan. We appreciate it. And thank you to our
Thank you so much
listeners
for having me.
Yeah, of course. We're gonna have you back. We will. Thank you to our listeners for being here, for supporting us. Like we said, I think you all found a lot of value in this episode. If you haven't heard of our other career chats yet, please feel free to go back and listen to them. We talk to people in healthcare, people in trades, welders, people in business, a variety. I'm like losing my train of thought right now, but a variety. We've done so many, I feel like I can't keep up anymore. And they are really great. They're very valuable. If you're a teenager or a parent or somebody that wants to pivot from a career and you need some just guidance, like the same thing Jordan did, giving you day-to-day insight. If you need that, that's what our career chats are for. We really enjoy recording them. So if there are careers that you want to learn more about, please feel free to shoot us an email. Feel free to reach out to us on Instagram. You can find us via email at yawsonpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to find us on social media, it's Yawson Podcast, YAWSYN Podcast. We love to hear from people. We don't get much interaction, so let's start that. Because we want to know what you all want to hear from us. There's also a lot going on in education. So if there's things you want us to talk about or discussions you want us to have, we enjoy doing that too. But yeah, thank you so much for your support. Please be sure to share the podcast. We have a little link to buy us a coffee or a tea if you're me. Kimmy drinks. You drink coffee, Kimmy? No.
Sometimes. Lately, no.
You can buy us a healthy beverage, or just support us in that way. But sharing and reaching out and just connecting with us is a great way to support us as well. So thank you all so much for being here. See you in the next one. See you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening to the latest episode of Your Advisors Will See You Now. Please make sure to follow us on all of our social media pages and check out our website. Take a look at the show notes below.
And please make sure to subscribe and share this podcast. Also, show us some love and please leave a 5-star review. Catch you next time.
See ya.